It is episode 8 of the league. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Get your popcorn ready. You know we're about to have a fantastic episode here for you today. We are getting to crunch time. We can see the finish line of the regular season, which means we got conference races that we need to tie up nice and tidy. We also got conference championship games on the way and some potential big-time bowl games, but you're going to have to stick around and wait for those. As for Week 13, we got a bevy of selection of games for you. A couple of user games out in the Mountain West, and we've got teams 1 and 2 in the MAC squaring off against each other in Athens. But we're going to start this one in the Sun Belt. The races in the East and the West are pretty much decided for our teams in the league. We're going to start with our East champion, the App State Mountaineers. Coach Mike Roth lost game 1, but then went on an absolute tear, winning every single game that he was on the sideline for the rest of the season. Now, they pretty much just had a tune-up game against the worst team in the conference in the Marshall Thundering Herd, and this one went about as good as you would expect for the Mountaineers. AJ Swan drops back to pass first drive of the game. He's going to check it down short and sweet, but this is one of the worst pursuit angles you will ever see from the Marshall defense. It's the reason why they have just 3 wins on the season. That one goes for a lot, to say the least. And then 3rd and 2, a couple drives later, that is another score, up 21-6 now. Put some icing on the cake here, 28-6. AJ Swan out to his running back. That is another touchdown, 42-6 your final. App State rolling offensively, and defensively they look good as well. Old Dominion looking to get back in the win column, this time against Georgia Southern. Listen, they just need one more game for bowl eligibility, but it didn't start well for them. Eagles on top early, and this thing kind of had a snowball effect. Once Georgia Southern got up, they just never looked back, and things just spiraled for Colton Joseph and the ODU offense. But it wasn't all sorrow for the Monarchs. They did find the end zone a couple more times before the end of the game, but they got trounced in. Listen, they may not make a bowl game at this point, and that is a scary sight to behold in Norfolk. Coastal Carolina, on the other hand, was trying to right the wrongs of the past couple of weeks, and they started out hot, up 7-6, but South Carolina answered with a touchdown right there. Coastal right back at them. This was a phenomenal fight from this Chanticleer's team, but the talent of the Gamecocks was just a little too much for them to be able to handle. Sellers on the QB keep takes it in for a score. 3rd and 10. Coastal trying to stay in this one. And Emmett Brown's going to get sacked. He's going to lose that football. And we've got another big man touchdown. It was a valiant effort for Coastal, but Coach Goon and the boys do drop this one in SEC country. Checking in with Coach Hingle McCringleberry and the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. They've had a rough second half to this season. It's not even just home and away anymore. It is simply just football. But they got up early on Arkansas State here. And listen, they needed these 2 wins in order to be able to go bowling. But that throw from Lunch Winfield's going to hurt them. Arkansas State would add 7 on that drive. But you know, with this Raging Cajun team, that it's never over when it seems like. It's 24-21 now after that touchdown. Winfield in the backfield again. He's drifting in the pocket. He's going to find his receiver on the slant, and he's got green. That is 6, and that is right before the half too, which is huge for the momentum swing. But Arkansas State, you know this defense is going to get burnt, and this was about as embarrassing as it gets. 3 defenders have an opportunity at the tight end. All of them look like school children out there. And is it bad to say that that wasn't even the best one? What in the world was this tight end eating? I think he had his Wheaties before the game, because holy hell, that was insane. Louisiana right back at them, though. This is a 3-point game as we're deep into the 4th quarter. These Raging Cajuns just needed to make a defensive stand. Looks like they're going to go press on the outside. Red Wolves, they're going to just check it down underneath, and that is, I'm not really sure what that is. Where was he going on that one? Yeah, that was a touchdown, and that would do it. Nail in the coffin, and the Raging Cajuns' hopes and dreams destroyed. So I mentioned we had some games going on out west, and the big one, and the one we'll start with, is San Jose State taking on San Diego State. Why is this one big? Well, they're 2-3 in the conference. Winner puts themselves in a really good position to be playing in the Mountain West Championship game against Boise State. Who would win that game? Well, you're going to have to wait and see. Because we're starting with the other user versus user game. Utah State coming off of a big win against UNLV, taking on Coach Hardy Sonnenberger Jr. and the Fresno State Bulldogs. We'll pick this one up midway through the first quarter. Bulldogs driving in Aggie territory. And what's that old Woody Hayes saying? 3 things can happen when you put the ball in the air, and 2 of them aren't good. That is picked off, and we are going the other way. That is at minimum a 10-point swing given field position. You could be looking at as much as 14. 4th and 3 now. Bryson Barnes with the 12-step drop. Not sure I've ever seen that one before, but it looks like it works for him. That was a bullet to the back of the end zone. 14-3 now Aggies. And whoa, what is that throw? Are you kidding me? Barnes stands in the face of pressure, eats it, and hits his receiver for a touchdown, then finds Corey Thompson Jr. Not sure what Fresno State was doing there defensively. And this one, the pick seals it. Yeah, that's right. Utah State, 2 games in a row they are winners of. Quite the turnaround for Coach Eric Taylor and his Aggies. We go to the other one that I was telling you about, San Jose State, trying to stop San Diego State from scoring here on their second drive of the game. They wouldn't be so fortunate, though. The screen played to perfection. That is an easy score right there. And then they would get the ball right back, and they looked primed to score, but we've seen it before. Jaden Denegal picked off, and again, I feel like he's probably leading the nation in pick sixes at this point. Unbelievably bad throw there, just 5 yards behind his receiver, and it's going to absolutely kill his offense's momentum. They would come back out very next play, and I guess this is how you could make up for that awful mistake. Catching San Jose State in a man pressure look, and that is a great response from the Aztec offense. Back in front 14-10 with the San Jose State offense. They weren't going to go away. Adam Matthews with a little pitch to his receiver on the jet motion. That makes this thing 17-all, and they would be back in the red zone. 1st and goal. Floyd Chalk the 4th. You know the name already by now. He finds the end zone himself, gives San Jose State the lead, and the first time they've had it in a little bit. And then they would get the ball back again, and we've seen this RPO flat play plenty of times from this Spartan offense. It's one of their favorites. Adam Matthews finds Kanan in the flat there for the score, and then Matthews again. He's going to throw this one deep, and he's got his guy wide open, and the floodgates open in the second half. San Jose State controls their destiny in the Mountain West, winning 45-24. Nevada was taking on Wyoming in a battle of the mid-tier Mountain West teams, and they would get off to a fantastic start, up 14-0. Now, we fast forward, and it is 34-10, and we've seen this motion RPO play for them all year long, work to perfection, and it continues to do so today. Why would you not run it if it is working? And then why not add one more for good measure? I always say, why be up 31 when you can be up 38? Big win for Nevada as they inch closer to bowl eligibility. Back to our big board map, and we're going to transfer ourselves to the Conference USA. We had a lot of good games going on there. Western Kentucky traveling to Death Valley, trying to upset LSU. Middle Tennessee State taking on a thorn in the side of some other league opponents in Sam Houston. Delaware going to Wake Forest, trying to upset a Power 4 opponent there. And then Missouri State trying to get their first FBS victory against a very gettable Kennesaw State team. Hopefully Dexter Williams is not on his A game like he was against Jacksonville State. And if the name of the game is scoring points, Missouri State put themselves in a really good position to win early on, driving all the way down the field and capping it off with that run right there. They would give up a field goal on their next defensive possession, and Jacob Clark would be looking deep. That one was picked off, though, going the other way. So we need a pick six tracker on this episode because holy crap, that's got to be 4 or 5 now so far. And then they would come right back down the field on their next offensive possession and find the end zone again. Owls on top 17-7 right now, but this run would change the momentum. That big MO that we love to talk about. Finding the end zone, cutting this thing to 3, and then right before the half, Jacob Clark rolling out of the pocket. He breaks the plane. on top at halftime are the Bears. That is a big one. But Dexter Williams would be phenomenal yet again. That throw, I just don't know how he does it. That was unreal. This touchdown would put Kennesaw State up, but Missouri State would respond with a field goal, tying this thing up at 24. Now, if the chance to go up, Clark on the run, he finds his receiver, he would score, and the Bears would get it done. Big win, first FBS victory of the Dustin Wagner era. You can't write a better book than that. As we head over to Winston-Salem, the Delaware Blue Hens trying to pull off a victory. Ball! That ball is out. That one is scooped, and we're going back the other way. Again, let's just not do pick sixes. Let's do defensive touchdowns, because holy crap, that is quite a few so far this episode. 7-0 lead for the Blue Hens, but the Demon Deacons would answer. They find the end zone right there on that inside run. 7-7 ball game now, but we know this Blue Hens offense has playmakers. Marker to Silver. He outruns the linebacker. He finds pay dirt. That is a lead for Delaware yet again, but Wake Forest would answer right back, scoring right before the break. Now 14-all late in the third quarter. Wake Forest driving, standing in the pocket, and firing over the middle. That is a 14-0 run, and then it would turn into a 28-0 run. Another score right here. 38-20 is the final score of this one. Fortunate loss for the Blue Hens. Middle Tennessee State trying to get to 10 wins, but they need to win their last two. They would start off here. Jaden Krettel fighting his way into the end zone for a score. This Sam Houston team is pesky, but the Blue Raiders did a really good job of getting up early and staying up. Amorion Walker on the opening kickoff of the second half bounces this thing outside and takes it all the way for a score. Great kick return from the speedster. Now up 21-6 late in the third quarter. Vadiato's going to dump this one off to Jaquel Middlebrook, and he's going to race to the pylon. Can he get there? Yes, he can. Middle Tennessee State on top of Sam Houston. To Death Valley we march. Western Kentucky looking to pull off the upset over an SEC opponent, and I'd say that's a great way to start the RPO bubble, working to perfection. And if it's working so well, why would you go away from it? This one to Katie Hutchinson, and we know that boy has wheels. He's going to outrun the entire LSU defense. 14-3, the Hilltoppers up early. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. 4-point lead now for the Hilltoppers. They're going to right back to the bubble screen. They go up by 11 at halftime. Hopefully the second half has more of the same. Garrett Nussmeier takes this snap here, and he's going to find his receiver wide open. That was right on the money with room to spare. That is an answer from the Tigers. They would cut into that deficit. Now, Western Kentucky trying to muster some offense here, but McIver is going to get picked off by Whit Weeks, and Weeks is going to run all the way down inside the 15-yard line. That would set up the LSU offense with a prime position to score, and Nussmeier would do right by his defense and take the lead 25-24. A minute 20 left, 3rd and 13. Maverick McIver, go be great. He's got his receiver, but he's picked off again. That's Whit Weeks' second, and LSU would go on to win 32-24. The upset bid falls just short. McIver, ooh, he's in hot water after that one. Back out to the map, because we got one more conference that we have to talk about. The MAC had 4 games in action. Obviously that big user versus user one, but we're going to wait a little bit to get to that one. Bowling Green taking on Akron at home. Toledo hosting Ball State, and then Miami traveling to Buffalo. The Bulls still trying to get that first FBS victory, but we're going to start this thing out in Bowling Green. The Falcons trying to get back in the win column, really finish this year off strong, and they would start in a really good spot to pull off this win. Drew Pine finds his tight end for the touchdown. They take the 10-7 lead, but this one would quickly go Akron's way. And by quickly, I mean the very next play. I don't know how he squeezes through that hole, but he does. And the Zips are snatching that lead right back. I think if you counted the time, it would be all of 15 seconds that Bowling Green held the lead in this game. Akron back in the red zone, and they're going to get back in the end zone. The tunnel screen works to perfection. That is teach tape right there, coaches. If you're looking for how to run it, that's what you got to do right there. And that one is picked off. Another defensive score. Is that 80 in the defensive backfield? whatever it is. It's a 41-23 Akron Zips victory. Miami, like I mentioned, trying not to be the only FBS team to lose to Buffalo this season. They would get off to a hot start, scoring not one, but 2 touchdowns before Buffalo could even sniff opponent territory. This throw over the middle on that dig is seated in there. That is a great throw. But Buffalo, they didn't go away here in the first half. We know this is usually a first half team. Roberson finding his guy over the middle, standing in the face of pressure. And when you bring more than 6, you're going to have some back end issues. But like I said, Miami was rolling offensively, up 29-7 now, and that was a broken tackle. If I've ever seen one, they would score 10 more points, going on to win 39-7, leaving Buffalo still looking for that first FBS victory. Toledo, on the other hand, we've seen them explode offensively recently, and it's because of this man right here. Trayvon Rudolph just beats his guy down the field. That is pure speed. Toledo up 28-7 now. Let's go back over the middle to Rudolph, and he reaches across the goal line, breaking the plane. That dude is on another level right now. 42-14 right before the half. Gleason standing in the pocket, firing and finding the end zone. Now up 70-28, but it's not as good as 77. Let's try it again. We're firing down the field. 20 seconds left. We break the play and win 77-28. Coach Cam King got to be happy with his offensive performance in that one. UMass, Ohio. We had a little desync action in this one. UMass with the 14-0 lead before it happened, so we spot him the 2 touchdowns and get back to action. They get the 4th and goal stop, but Ohio finds their way right back and finds the end zone. Parker Navarro to his guy, Chase Hendricks, right here, makes it 14-14. This one was shaping up to be a game for the ages. But when you have a head coach with killer attitude, you're not going to give up. And Jawad Price knows that, and he's going to show off his strength right there. That is weight room diving in the end zone. Come on, man. You got to be bigger than that. Right before the half, this is an insane sequence. We're going to miss a chip shot field goal. It's 21-14. There are just 3 seconds left. That gets Ohio the ball at the 20-yard line because of the touchback rule, and Parker Navarro is going to show off his cannon, finding Chase Hendricks over the middle, but surely they're going to make the tackle, right? It looks like maybe. No, are you serious? What a change of momentum before the half. UMass looking to go up by 10 before the break. Instead, it's a tie ball game, and that score might be the difference in this one. C.A. Bangura banging his way into the end zone. Ohio up 31-28 now after a field goal, but Price finding the end zone again. He's been so good for UMass this season. 4th and 3 now, 4:50 left in the 4th quarter. Brandon Rose stones throwing over the middle there. They would face 4th and goal. Now they have to convert again. This one is massive. They need it big time. Rose over the middle. That one gets picked off, sitting in the end zone. The middle linebacker, I don't think he saw him. Kind of blended in with the green paint in the end zone. But they have all 3 timeouts. They just need to get a stop. 2nd and 9. Bangura takes the handoff. He cuts up field, and that is gonna do it. Ohio wins this one 31-28. Unbelievable game. As we head out to the scoreboard recap, let's take a look back at the scores that were in Week 13. App State wins big over Marshall 42-6. Louisiana falls again, and the spiral continues. Coastal Carolina kind of in that same boat. Their opponent a little bit better than Arkansas State, though. Same with Old Dominion. The entire Sun Belt, besides App State, has fallen off recently in the second half of this season. Just not very good football being played there. Nevada back in the win column with a big win over Wyoming. San Jose State proving that they are one of the best in the conference with a big win over San Diego State. And then Utah State, that is 2 in a row, embarrassing Fresno State on their home turf. That is not a good look for the Bulldogs. Out in the Conference USA, we had a massive win for the Missouri State Bears as they beat Kennesaw State 31-24. Western Kentucky's upset bid falls ever so short in a game that you really thought the Hilltoppers were going to be able to come out of. Unfortunately, not the case. Middle Tennessee State staying the course, trying to get that rematch with Jacksonville State in the Conference USA Championship game. Delaware goes up 14-7 on Wake Forest, but gets outscored big time from there. And then in a simulated game with no coach, Lou Brown on the sideline, Jacksonville State able to win 25-7. And then the MAC Ohio wins a tight one over UMass. Toledo up big on Ball State. Miami beats Buffalo, and Bowling Green drops 1 to Akron. Now time for the players of the week. Junior Vanderrost III with 6 catches, 198 yards, and 3 scores is your National Offensive Player of the Week in that big win over Ball State. Out in Conference USA, we had Abdul Muhammad get Defensive Player of the Week honors with 2 interceptions and a PBU against Sam Houston. And then KD Hutchinson in the losing effort against LSU with 9 catches, 188 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Where would this Hilltopper offense be without that man right there? He has been unreal this season. And then we go to the Mountain West. Chase Henry, the tight end for Nevada, had himself a heck of a game. 12 catches, 90 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. Listen, he's not a big play threat, but you know he's there to move the sticks. That's exactly what he does in their big win over Wyoming. Then it's Kyle Arnold getting Defensive Player of the Week honors against Marshall. 13 tackles, 2 sacks, 7 of those tackles for loss, by the way, and he had an INT. Hell of a game from the Mike in black and gold there. And just like that, we reach week 14, the final regular season week of season 1 of the league. I honestly don't know how we made it here. It's been an awesome ride so far in season number 1, and there are plenty more to follow. So you're going to want to stick around. Hit that subscribe button. Again, we have plenty more content coming your way. We got our first recruiting classes coming in. I'm going to introduce you to all of the major players there as well. I promise you, hitting that subscribe button is the best thing that you're going to do today. As we take a look at week 14, we got a handful of player versus player games. 2 in the MAC, 1 in the Mountain West, and then 1 in Conference USA as well. But we also got a bunch of CPU versus CPU games. We got bowl eligibility on the line. We've got places to clinch in conference championships, although most of them are pretty secure. We're going to start this thing in the Sun Belt because bowl eligibility is on the line in Norfolk. They bring in Georgia State, a team that has not fared so well this season. Their one win in conference being over Coastal Carolina. Yeah, I thought I'd bring that one up again, but this is a must-win game for the Monarchs, and they brought the juice. If you were missing that ODU defense that we saw at the beginning of the season, well, I've got good news for you. They were back in full force today. A pick 6 to bring this one home. We head to the third quarter now. This thing is a 10-6 ball game. Colton Joseph throwing the moon ball to the corner. That is a beautiful throw and would put the Monarchs on top. Now 19-6. They're going to find the end zone one more time for good measure, fighting their way in there. And someone set the pins up because, baby, we're going bowling in Norfolk. For Coastal Carolina, they already have their bowl game locked up. It was just about getting on the right side of victory again. 3 straight losses is no way to end your season, but they're already down 28-14. They would find the end zone there. Great pass from Emmett Brown to cut this thing to 7. And we're midway through the fourth quarter. JMU is going to find the end zone on the ground there to put this thing back up to 14. What does Coastal have for you? Emmett Brown rolling out of the pocket. He's going to find the end zone easily, might I add. They go for 2 and get it. 2:20 now. Alonzo Barnett fakes the handoff. He's going to throw this thing up. That's a jump ball. JMU comes down with it, and they got room to run. Coastal's going to give up, let him score. Unbelievable throw from Barnett to find the end zone there. Minute 30 left. If you were expecting a normal Coastal game, come on, what were you thinking? How about that throw from Emmett Brown? Are you kidding me? They need to get the onside kick here. A touchdown puts them out in front, and they get it. Are you serious? This is unbelievable. 4th and 1, 40 seconds left. And that's not even Emmett Brown. It's the backup, but he's going to find the end zone. Coastal, the chance to go up. All they need to do is make the extra point. Doink! Are you serious? This thing is tied. We're going to overtime. Oh, my God. What an unbelievable finish to this game. Oh, no. Oh, no, we're not going to overtime. JMU all the way down inside Coastal territory. They're lining up for the game winner, and that thing is right down the pipe. Coastal Carolina loses their 4th in a row in heartbreaking fashion. Wow. I'm just at a loss for words at this point for that team. The amount of games that they've won that they probably should have lost And the amount of games that they lost that they probably should have won is absolutely insane. App State, on the other hand, dominant as ever, up 20-10 now after that touchdown run right there. Go back to the running back. That is Roberts, who scores again. He's having himself a great year so far. 27-10 now. But hold on a second. Arkansas State is driving, and that throw is going to put them in a 10-point deficit. This one might not be over. A field goal makes it a 7-point ball game. 4th and goal. If they get to stop here, we got ourselves a ball game, but they don't. And App State would just continue to add in the final seconds, winning 48-20. A bowl game is out of the question now for Louisiana, but a good feeling going into the offseason is not. A win here would do massive wonders for the confidence, and they're going up against lowly ULM, which is why going up 14-10 felt so nice. However, this catch right here in the back of the end zone, oh man, that's good on Sundays. Would not be such a great feeling. Warhawks up 3 now, and they would add to it. Not sure what the corner was doing on that one. Ooh, that dive was ugly. That is now 10-point lead for ULM to win. ULM, might I add. Louisiana is just choking so hard right now, but this throw is on the money. Lunch, show me what you got, big fella. Beautiful throw. That would set up a touchdown 2 plays later, cut this thing to 6. And on the very next possession, oh my God, he got his clock cleaned. Are you serious? That is another defensive touchdown in this one. Then on the ensuing kickoff, this is the 3rd fumble in a boom in a row. Are you kidding me? When the special teams comes to play, you gotta reward them, and they would. Raging Cajuns have a 7-point lead now, but the defense would let ULM march all the way down the field, and on 1st and goal, they would find pay dirt. That would tie this thing up at 37-all, but a Louisiana field goal with 3:56 left would put them out in front once again. All they would need is for the defense to make a stop, and a stop they would make, putting the ball back in the offense's hands. 3rd and 11. If they get this, the game is over. Little RPO action. Can he get there? Yes, he can. That is a Raging Cajuns W. What a way to end this season for them. As we zoom back out to the Week 14 landscape. Let me catch my breath for a second. That was a jam-packed Sunbelt recap. Okay, now that I'm back in an even-keeled state, we can talk about our next conference. We're going back to the CUSA, where we got a couple of fun games to look at. Missouri State trying to go 2 in a row to end this season. Middle Tennessee State trying to get to the conference championship game unscathed. The Blue Hens trying to get back to their winning ways from early in the season. And then a very interesting player versus player matchup between Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State. But we're going to start this thing out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Blue Raiders trying to make it 10 wins on the season. First MTSU drive, and they're deep in Aggie territory now. They're going to hand this one off to Jaden Krettel. Krettel's going to find the edge, and he's going to score untouched to put them up 7-0. But on the ensuing kickoff, we haven't really seen this from Middle Tennessee State this year, but poor tackling and poor angles adds another kick return touchdown in this episode. I kid you not, we have never seen as many special teams and defensive touchdowns as we have in this episode right here. New Mexico State now up 10-7 on the Blue Raiders, but Morion Walker would change that. He had himself a fun day last week, but he was even better this week. However, that defense was uncharacteristically bad, giving up a touchdown on 3rd and 16. New Mexico State putting a scare into Middle Tennessee, but Morion Walker on the ensuing kickoff would put the Blue Raiders back out in front. That is angle-breaking speed right there, and he's going to find the end zone for the 2nd time today. Now 21-17. They're going to hand this thing off to Krettel, and he goes untouched yet again for his 2nd score of the game. 28-17, now it's Shaquille Middlebrook in the backfield. He cuts up the field, finds the end zone as Middle Tennessee wins 56-24. They dominate the 2nd half. Delaware up 14-7 now as they need this victory to get to 6 wins on the season, and that will certainly help. That is a strip sack and recover by one dude. The very next play, Jake Bradell. We haven't seen him in a while, but he shows off being a man. That dude is going to play on Sundays without question. 21-7, now 9 seconds left in the first half. UTEP on the 1 yard line. They're going 5 wide. That's an interesting concept there, but it pays off for them as they cut into this Delaware lead though. But the Blue Hens would find the red zone yet again, and Marker throws it up to Bradell, and he comes down with it. If we had top plays of the year, that one would 1000% be up there. Go up and get it. Climb the ladder. Good Lord. But the defense would let them down not once, but 2 times. UTEP scores 14 unanswered to tie this thing up at 28. And this has been a theme for Delaware. They just have not been able to close these games. So Jake Thaw said enough of that. That would be the winning score right there, 38-28, and Delaware is going bowling as well. I really didn't feel like we would see Missouri State be able to go on a 2-game win streak, even put one together. But here we are in week 14 with that being a possibility, going up 13-7 on Louisiana Tech, and then they would add a field goal to make it a 9-point ball game. That's right, they're up 2 scores on the Bulldogs. But this defense is just unacceptable. That is a jump ball touchdown for Louisiana Tech, and that would make it a 2-point ball game. The pucker factor starting to push in, and Jacob Clark throws an awful interception. He needs to make the tackle here, but he's just so unathletic that he is unable to. That man has cost this team so many games, but he would redeem himself. The following drive, just 40 seconds left, finding his man over the middle, Bears on top once again. 27 seconds left. You just need to hold, defense. Please, for the love of God, do not give up a 62-yard touchdown. Oh my God, you have got to be kidding me. Louisiana Tech pulls a rabbit out of a hat and rips out the heart of everyone in Springfield, Missouri. Out in Jacksonville, Alabama, Western Kentucky Hilltoppers were looking to pull off a major upset to go bowling, and they would get the party started first, scoring on their very first drive of the game while also chewing 4.5 minutes of clock. But the Jacksonville State Gamecocks answered right back. They wanted to clinch their spot in the Conference USA Championship game. After forcing a punt on their next defensive possession, the offense found its groove again, finding the end zone, but the extra point was blocked and taken back for an end zone, so we got a 13-9 ball game. Western Kentucky driving yet again, looking to take the lead here. That's why that blocked extra point was so big, and they would, converting on 4th and 4, but they left too much time for the Gamecocks before the half. This is not Gavin Wimsatt. He got hurt last week against FIU. This is backup quarterback Cade Cunningham on the run, finding his running back in the flat right as time expires. Jacksonville State takes a 20-16 lead into the break, and then Western Kentucky tries an onside kick. It fails. Then Jacksonville State pulls this out of their bag of tricks. Gamecocks up by 2 scores now. But the Hilltoppers would come right back down the field. 2nd and goal. McIver drifting in the pocket. He's going to get hit as he lets this one go. Touchdown, Hilltoppers. Way to stand in the face of pressure and find the end zone. Cam Cook says, not so fast. A whoop, taking ankles out in open space and putting this thing right back to a 12-point game. Western Kentucky needs an answer here, and they need it quickly. McIver to the end zone. That is a beautiful read and a beautiful throw to convert. Now down by 5. Defense, step up and make a play. Yikes. That is not the play I was talking about. Broken tackle in the backfield. Cam Cook takes that one all the way down to the 11, and then they would continue to just grind out the rest of the yards and find the end zone to seal the fate of the Hilltoppers. Zooming back out to the big picture, we've got to look and see what the Mountain West is up to. The title game is already set. It'll be San Jose State and Boise State facing off in Las Vegas. But that's not to say that both teams don't want to be playing their best football going into that game. So we're going to check out both of those teams today. We've got San Diego State looking to make it to 7 wins on the season, and then Nevada looking for bowl eligibility in year 1 of Hey, Would You Blow Me? Let's kick things off with Utah State hosting Boise State. The Broncos coming off of a loss to San Diego State, looking to get back right before they head to Vegas for the conference championship game. And if you thought this was going to be a walk in the park for Boise State, Coach Eric Taylor had other plans. His Utah State Aggies have won 2 in a row, and they're looking to make it 3. And that man right there is a big reason why Corey Thompson Jr. dusts the Bronco defense for 7 and puts the Aggies out in front. Maddox Madsen counters, though, finds his receiver who fights his way all the way down to the 1. Not sure why he spun there instead of reached the ball over the end zone for a touchdown, but they would score the very next play, so I guess it really didn't matter. Boise State back out in front, but Bryson Barnes is going to do his best Lamar Jackson impersonation on the run, throwing that thing up there, go up and snag that thing out of the air. Oh my goodness, what an athletic play there. Is that a backwards pat? What in the world did we just see? Whatever it was, it worked for Boise State. But Utah State, Barnes again on the run. What in the world? Where did this guy come from? That is not the Bryson Barnes that we saw at the beginning of the season. What a throw. Unreal. And that would give them the lead. And then they would block the field goal. And they're going to take this thing back for 6. What in the special teams plays in this episode? Are you kidding me? Utah State up by 11 now on Boise State. Boise State would score, though, to cut this to a 3-point ball game. 4th and 3. Utah State is going ballsy. They're going to go for it. Barnes finds his receiver. They're going to knee this thing out. Utah State, 3-game win streak to end the season. Watch out, because in Logan, Utah, those boys are feeling good. San Jose State, on the other hand, looking to go to 10 wins themselves, and this one would be an easy one against Fresno State. Coach Aiden Crowley had the boys ready to go, and you could tell from the jump. They played with their food a little bit in the first quarter, but the second quarter was all Spartans. That is a play that we've seen them run a billion times. Matthews to Kanan again. And then Matthews again alone in the backfield. 2 minutes left in the first half. He's going to take this one by himself. And I'm not sure where Fresno State was going on that one, but it wasn't anywhere near Matthews. Now 28-0 before the break. And Fresno State would put another score on the board. E.J. Warner finds his man in the end zone. And that is a nice little contested catch. Fresno State was 3-4 at one point this season. They are going to finish the year 4-8. Yeah, that is not good, and that is a trend we've seen from a lot of these teams in the league this year. Great start to the first half of the season, and then fallen off greatly. We're going to take a look at some of those numbers in a little bit. But for now, San Jose State wins big and looks poised to win the Mountain West Conference against Boise State in a few weeks. Nevada needs this win for bowl eligibility, and Herschel Turner would cut into this early lead they face. That is just pure speed and adrenaline right there. But the Rebels would be running right back down the field and have the answer. This one would have that back and forth kind of feel from this point on. Turner again, halfback direct snap. He fights his way into the end zone. We got ourselves an 8-point ball game now. Little motion to the flat, a little RPO action, and he's got plenty of room to run. Picks up 2 great blocks from the receiver, and that is a Nevada touchdown. They need the 2-point conversion, though, to stay in this one, and they would get it back to Turner, the tight end. He reaches over the goal line, and we're headed to OT. Nevada starts with the ball first, and they're going to go halfback direct again. The crease was left open, and they find it. 36-29, UNLV's turn on offense. And when you give a quarterback all day to throw in the pocket, eventually he's going to find someone. They convert and kick the extra point. We're tied at 36 now. UNLV back on offense. This one off the edge, and that is a touchdown. They would pick up the 2-point conversion. 4th and 2 now. If they don't pick this up, Nevada loses and doesn't go bowling. And just like that, Nevada will be sitting at home come December. They do not go bowling. That is a heartbreaker right there. They also lose the Battle of Nevada. San Diego State looking to get to 7 wins on the year. I know the Slug wants to close out the year strong, and especially a strong finish from this guy right here. Jaden Denegal gets the scoring started late in the second quarter, and he would keep going too. Minute 35 left in the second quarter. He's going to throw it out to his receiver on the out route, and he's going to fight his way into the end zone. 14-point ball game now. There are just 59 seconds left in the first half. New Mexico trying to get any offense, and he's going to get hit, and that ball is going to get picked off, and there is no one in front of him. Hello, that's another defensive touchdown. How about that? Can we get a defensive touchdown counter or a defensive plus special teams counter on this one? Okay, New Mexico try to put the ball in the end zone. Challenge impossible. That ball is out. That one is scooped up by a big fella, and that's back-to-back defensive touchdowns for the Aztecs. I'm telling you, we really should have a counter on this episode. Editor, why have you not put it in? This is ridiculous. As we zoom back out to the Week 14 big map, we've got one conference left, and of course, that conference is the MAC. I feel like they are last in almost every single episode. There's a reason why. I want to see if you're able to figure that out. But we're going to start this thing in Central Michigan. That's right. We're going to Mount Pleasant. It's a snow game. We got a little snowy quarter up in the Northeast this weekend in the Mitten State. Central Michigan trying to play spoiler on Toledo's outside shot at a conference title appearance. And if you want to play spoiler, being up 6-0 in the second quarter is a very good way to start. But unfortunately, the impact players of Toledo came to play in the second quarter. They're now up 21-6, and they're looking to make it more before the half is over. Trayvon Rudolph continuing his dominant season so far, up 35-6 now. Gleason dropping back to pass. He's going to fire over the middle. I believe it's Rudolph again. Tough to see in the snow. 52-6 is your final. Toledo rolling right now offensively. We got some controversy in this one. Buffalo still looking for that first FBS victory and trying to do so against a Bobcat team that is top 25 in the media poll. Sure didn't look like it on that one. That is a trick play for a one-play touchdown. We'd also have another one-play touchdown. C.A. Bangura on the rocket toss. And with how much space he has, you think he has the plague. Good Lord, does anybody want to try to tackle him? Nope, nobody's ever going to get in frame. He's going to put a couple of jukes on and just dive in the end zone. That is taking showboating to the next level. However, this Buffalo offense would drive immediately back down the field, and they would find the end zone again. This is the best the offense has looked all season long, already with 14 points in the first quarter on this Ohio defense. Navarro, however, staying cool, calm, and collected, driving his team back down the field and finding his running back Bangura in the flat again. Someone should think about getting Bangura a trampoline with how much he loves to jump. My God. Ohio with the ball, driving again just outside of the red zone. Navarro's going to try to hit this corner out. That ball gets picked off. The corner peeled back and took that one away. Ring the bell. That's another defensive touchdown. And Buffalo is up 21-14 in the first quarter on the best team in the MAC. I kid you not, this is real. But here's where the controversy comes in. We have a desync. And why this is controversial? Well, because this is the best game Buffalo has played all season long. They have the big MO on their side. The entire first quarter had been finished. The Bobcats essentially got 9.5 minutes back to come back from a 7-point deficit rather than the essentially 2.5 quarters that they had. And they took advantage. A pick six extends the lead. They're now up 35-17 right before halftime. And they would score again, 42-17 before the break, 79-24 your final. Just a really sad way for this game to end when it was shaping up to be potentially the biggest upset we've ever seen. Our final game in Week 14 in the regular season is a rather important one. UMass needs this win in order to make it to the conference championship game in the MAC. Otherwise, it's Toledo's spot. They got out to an early 7-0 lead, but Bowling Green wanted to play spoiler today. They punch right back. UMass driving, though, tied at 7 halfway through the second quarter, and this RPO action to the flat is going to result in 6. 4th and 23. Bowling Green opts to go for it on their next drive, and they're going to heave up a prayer. Drew Pine showing off the arm, and that ball is caught. That is a touchdown. Are you serious right now? That is a ballsy play in the first place, but then to come down with it is unbelievable. Now, just before the half, UMass driving again, and Rose on the run is going to find his tight end in the end zone, make this a 7-point ball game at the break. Coming out of halftime, it's Bowling Green with the ball now, and Pine is picked off. That one is going back. Another defensive touchdown. Again, 25, I'm going to say, at this point. So it's a 14-point ball game now, and Bowling Green is facing a 4th and 4, but it's nothing the Falcons haven't seen yet this season. Oh, my God. Somebody check that man's ankles. Ooh, baby, that was sweet. Now it's a 10-point ball game after UMass goes down and kicks a field goal. What do the Falcons have in store? Pine drop it back to pass. He's going to show off the arm again, but this one is picked off, a little underthrown. That is Pine's third interception of the game so far, but the defense made a stand and got the ball right back, giving Pine a shot to redeem himself, and redeem himself he would. He loves the deep ball. That one is caught again. Are you serious right now? 3-point ball game. All comes down to this. UMass facing a 4th and 1. If they get it, they win. And they do. They're going to the MAC championship game. We've got ourselves a rematch of Ohio and UMass. If you aren't ready, you better strap in. As we recap our scores from week 14, App State wins big over Arkansas State 48-20. ODU back in the win column after a 3-game losing streak, 33-20. Louisiana in the same boat as ODU, winning 37-34 over lowly UL Monroe. Listen, sometimes you don't have to beat the best teams. You just got to get back in the win column. And then JMU pulling off the win over Coastal Carolina and sending the tailspin even further. The Shawns finished the regular season on a 4-game losing streak. Ugly stuff from Coach Goon. Over in Conference USA, Middle Tennessee State finished the regular season strong with a 56-24 win over the Aggies. Missouri State falls just short of a 2-game win streak to close out this season. Delaware also back in the win column with a 10-point win over UTEP, and Jacksonville State outlasting Western Kentucky 41-29. Over in the Mountain West, Coach Aiden Crowley beats Coach Sonnenberger Jr. 49-28 in a game that wasn't all that close. And then UNLV upsets Nevada in the battle for the Casino State. San Diego State finishes the season very strong, beating New Mexico 49-17. And then Utah State, the story of this season, or at least the past couple of weeks, wins their 3rd straight game in a row. This one over a team playing in the Mountain West title game. Awesome finish for Coach Eric Taylor and the Aggies. And then in the MAC to round us out, Ohio wins big over Buffalo. A little controversy in that one. Maybe put an asterisk next to it. And then Toledo wins big over Central Michigan. Trayvon Rudolph with 6 touchdowns. He's scored so much, I keep losing track. And then UMass with their 3-point victory over Bowling Green. The team that we saw in week 1 out in Bowling Green, Ohio, and the team we saw in week 14 are 2 very different teams. All the credit in the world to Coach P. Rizzi for the turnaround. Although the record didn't show it on the field play, they played much better. So give a shout out to him. But Coach Kaz going to the MAC title game, taking on the Bobcats. As we look at players of the week, National Defensive Player of the Week goes to Tavon Corbett, 15 tackles, a sack, 3 tackles for loss, a pick, and a touchdown. And then Trayvon Rudolph is the Offensive Player of the Week, 13 catches, 152 yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. Not quite as many yards per catch as we're used to. In Conference USA, it's Jawan Gatson with 12 tackles, 4 for loss, an INT, and 2 PBUs for Defensive Player of the Week. And then on the offensive side of the football, it's Amorion Walker, 8 catches, 204 yards, 3 touchdowns, as well as a kick return touchdown. Yeah, that's 4 total for him. As we go to the MAC Defensive Player of the Week, it's Jack Fries in the win over Buffalo. He had 2 tackles, 2 INTs, a PBU, and a touchdown. Quite the performance for him in that one. And then in the Mountain West, it's Deshaun McEwen, 4 tackles, a TFL, interception, a forced fumble, touchdown. He was everywhere. And then Jackson Kanan, we've seen this guy plenty of times before, 10 catches, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns in their win over Fresno State. We already know the Defensive Player of the Week in the Sun Belt. On the offensive side, it's Isaiah Alston in their win over Coastal Carolina, 7 catches, 316 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That is an average of 45.1 per catch. He made that defense look silly. It's time to take a look at the standings. Conference USA Week 14, Jacksonville State staying true in that number 1 spot. Middle Tennessee State right behind them there. Louisiana Tech in 3rd. Delaware moves back up to 4. Liberty at 5. UTEP at 6. Western Kentucky at 7. All of those teams are 4-4 in conference. Then FIU, Sam Houston, New Mexico State, all 3-5, rounding out that 8 through 10 section. And then Kennesaw State and Missouri State are our final 2 teams. Missouri State finishing with just 1 win in the conference, and it was over that number 11 team, Kennesaw State. As we move over to the MAC, Ohio, UMass, Toledo, all 10-2 overall. Ohio 8-0 in conference. UMass 7-1 with the tiebreaker because of the win over Western Michigan, putting them in that second spot and in the MAC championship game. Toledo on the outside looking in over those top 3 teams. Western rounding out the top 4. Miami, Akron, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, all 4-4 in conference. A little cluster there in the middle. Kent State at 3-5 by themselves, surprisingly, in that 9 spot. Ball State at 2-6. Bowling Green also 2-6. In Northern Illinois 2-6. And then Buffalo 1-11 on the season, 0-8 in the conference. I really don't know what's going on there. Hopefully they have it fixed by next season and are able to make a bowl game. Otherwise, Hugh Janus might be gone. Looking at the Mountain West, San Jose State finishes on top in the regular season. They do win 7 conference games. Boise State only wins 6 with their 2 losses to San Diego State and Utah State to finish out the conference season. San Diego State, speaking of the Devil, is 5-3 in conference. Finished the season very strong and picks up that 3 spot at 7-5 overall. And here's where things get interesting. Everybody else in the conference, so that's 9 teams, either went 4-4 or 3-5 in conference. Yep, that is absolutely right. Colorado State should say 4-4, not 3-3. Apologies there, but everybody else was 4-4 or 3-5. As you can see, there were a lot of 3-5s. The entire second half of the conference went 3-5. So basically, if you're doing power ratings, this would say all of these teams suck the exact same amount. In the Sun Belt, we're going to start in the East. App State and Georgia Southern really separated themselves from the rest of the pack, but App State clear as the favorite in the conference, and they proved it, going 10-2 and 7-1 in the conference. James Madison pulling into that 3rd spot with Coastal Carolina and Old Dominion right behind them. Then Georgia State and Marshall rounding it out. Marshall 3-9 finish on the season, 0-8 in conference. They were very bad in conference play. And then in the West, it's Southern Miss taking home the crown, 7-5 overall, 6-2 in conference. And then Arkansas State, South Alabama, Texas State, and Troy. They all go 6-6 overall, a little 5-3 and 4-4 mixed in there. And then Louisiana's fall from grace. They finished 5-7, missing a bowl game, and 3-5 in conference. But one of those wins did come against Southern Miss, so a little something to hang your hat on there. And then UL Monroe finishing 2-10, 1-7 in the conference. Their one win coming against Old Dominion. So yeah, a lot of bad teams beating good teams losing to bad teams in this conference. That is all I have for you today. Conference Championship Week up next, so you're going to want to push that little bell icon next to the subscribe button. And while you're down there, might as well just hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Maybe give this video a like, too, if you've made it this far. I mean, 50 minutes in, I hope if you're still around, you've enjoyed it enough to give it a like, maybe even throw a comment in there who you think is going to come out smelling like roses in the end of this season. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the flip. See ya.